Okay, that's it, Mallow. Phase 4 is over. Phase 4 is complete. The weirdest phase of the MCU, and I would say the weakest phase of the MCU. In spite of the fact that they had a couple of good films in there, the weakest phase of the MCU, but when it's done, because Wakanda Forever, it's out.
It is.
And we got to see it. We've managed to carve time out of our busy lives to actually both watch it with a couple of days of each other.
That itself is a momentous occasion as to why we're making a YouTube video about this. But
yes.
I want to have, like, in the YouTube video, I just want to have, like, the, like, party explosions go pa pa like that.
Pa, pa, pa. Yeah. So there were some parts about this that did leak or that were hinted to in some of the media that I was skeptical about. I was waiting to see how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
Because that was what it was to me, was how are you going to do this?
I read the entire screenplay before I went in.
So it was real. The one you read was
all of it was real. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
That makes the like 5th or 6th Marvel movie that I have read the most
you managed
of the
to get a hold of the screenplay?
Yeah, but I've gotten most of the screenplay, if not all of the notes, ahead of time going into it.
So I'll say this. Before we get into spoilers, overall, I thought the film was good. There was a couple of nice surprises. One thing in particular that I was glad did not get spoiled for me.
Yeah.
And I think that overall they handled it well. There was a couple of things at the beginning that I thought were a little choppy.
Yep.
But not terrible. Angela Bassett does a great job.
Okay, we're just going to jump right into the Angela Bassett, because if they don't give her a fucking Oscar for this goddamn performance, I swear to God.
They won't.
I know they won't because it's a Marvel movie. But I mean, my God, you couldn't do
her tail off.
You couldn't. They owe her this. Like, she got her groove back in Stella. Like Angela Bassett has been a staple of fantastic cinema over the years. And if they don't give it to her for this, man, look, I'm with you. I thought she did a phenomenal job. The emotion that she showed, and obviously everybody knows Black Panther is dead at the beginning of the movie, in case you didn't know. Like, that's not a spoiler. Yeah.
Because Chadwick Boseman died.
Don't worry, I'm going to throw up a big spoiler warning thing on this before we get going.
When we get to the spoiler section.
Yeah.
The way that they handled her grief, the way that she showed grief through that whole film was really well done.
She showed grief. And I'll say this from my own personal life of meeting and being around many of these types of women. She showed the type of grief that you only get with a woman who has seen fucking everything. Like, she has seen everything. And that portrayal of both a mother and a ruler was insane. And I'm sorry, you couldn't do Shakespeare better than this. And then she killed it.
Yeah, and we'll get into the spoiler section. The whole section of the UN. Like, I was like, dude, she came for these fuckers. By the way, I will say, did get a great cameo in there. It was great. I love Toby Ziegler from The West Wing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad we got some Richard Schiff. I looked at Jess when I was watching. I was like, look, it's Toby. Oh, he's still being an asshole.
I think we should take this review and this spoiler cast a little bit in sections. I want to talk about, and I think we should do it a little bit like this. I think we should talk about the characters, because you already started us on Angela Bassett, and we could talk about some of the portrayals from the characters that are trying to carry this show. I want to talk about Richard Schiff, because I've got some thoughts on that particular one, and then that's going to lead into some of the.
I think he's going to be back.
Yep, we'll get into that in a minute, and then I just kind of want to I want to get some overall, like, where do we go next from that, because there's a lot of that's going on here. And in the middle of that, I want to talk about the similarities between Namor and Talokan, everything in Wakanda and stuff like that. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Great.
Let's round out the. Let's start real quick here with, what grade do you give this out of 10?
This is an easy 8.5. Probably
Okay.
not the best Marvel movie they've ever made in the history of Marvel movies. But yeah, I mean, it was firmly solid. Again, looking at the Phase 4 slate,
It's the best one from Phase 4 besides Shang-Chi.
and here's the thing. I think Shang-Chi was more fun,
Yes.
but this was a better film,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
right? Ryan Coogler knocked it out of the park again. So 8.5 for me. Where are you at?
I am at an 8 with this particular one. I think and that puts it just above or right on par with Spider-Man No Way Home. I think Thor Love and Thunder, like I'll be real with you. The first Black Panther movie, I believe, I'd have to go back and check the archives, but I believe I gave it a 10 out of 10. It was so well done. In the way that Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan, their characters interacted, the way that M'Baku came on, the way that all of that stuff came through, was just fantastic. So
Yes.
the thing that I will say is that's not me being down on this movie at all. I could probably see it as an 8.5 easily. As a filmmaker myself, you could kind of tell what they had to do at the beginning of it, you know, and you probably did too, because you've done some films.
Yeah.
And
Ryan Coogler had come out and said, like, this was not the original plan.
Correct.
The second Black Panther movie was not supposed to be this. When Chadwick Boseman passed away, they had to completely retool everything. And we all know that Marvel plans his shit 5 years out. And so when Chadwick died, like, it threw everything for a loop, and they had to figure out what to do. And honestly, I can't think of a better way they could have done it with what they had. Given what was set up in Phase 4, given what was set up here, given all this stuff, I don't think it could have been done better. Not really. And Ryan Coogler, once again, like, he is really one of my favorite directors. And he also wrote this. So let's give credit where credit's due. Ryan Coogler is solid.
Yeah.
Right?
He wrote it with, I was looking it up. Wakanda Forever was written by him and Joe Robert.
Yeah. Yeah, he crushed it. He crushed it.
He did. Where I want to get in with the actors a little bit.
All right, let's do that.
This is where I start to go further down and where I am, I'll hint a little bit that I'm a little bit on where the rest of Phase 5 goes.
I've got the Phase 5. I figured we'd hit that at the end, but but go ahead. Other actors in there.
Letitia Wright. We're just going to call it what it is. I do not hate her as Black Panther. Shuri is Black Panther. I do not.
That was one of the ones I was curious about.
I do not believe that she's going to be able to carry a solo Black Panther 3. No. And I am very afraid of that.
I don't think that's her I don't think they expect her to.
That's my hope. Because the cast that they surrounded her with, and that is nothing, by the way, like, I feel bad. Because
she did a good job in the movie.
She did a fine job in the movie. And I feel bad because she has to follow Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And it was and I was bought in because up until the throne room scene, when she goes back with the heart-shaped herb, the synthetic one, and when Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger comes on.
So we're just fully into
I'm putting the spoiler. I'm just putting the spoiler up at the beginning.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
By the way, that was the one that surprised me. When he showed up on screen, I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
You got him back. First off, I was happy to see Michael B. Jordan on screen again in this film. I was really mad when they killed him at the beginning of Black Panther. By the way, there went all the fan theories that Killmonger might still be alive. He's not. He's dead.
He's dead.
That being said, he chewed that scene up.
He did, and that's the part where it became
I love that scene.
That's the part that it became very obvious to me that I'm like, oh. Because up until then, you had Angela Bassett's character carrying, you had Okoye, you had Denai Guerrilla, you had Lupita Nyong'o, You had all these people carrying these scenes. And then when it was only Letitia Wright playing Shuri, playing the new Black Panther on screen, it became very obvious that they had not set her up for success. And I feel bad, like I said, because when you put her in that scene with Michael B. Jordan, you're like, crap, Chadwick wouldn't have this problem. But we don't have him. And she's having to carry this movie. And so I worry about that particular part of it, because that's the weakest actual part of the movie until Michael B. Jordan starts spitting. And then I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, Michael B. Jordan is back. We got him. Like, we got him as Killmonger. And it's like nothing ever happened.
No, it was, and that scene was really, really well done. First off, again, I was not, because nowhere in the marketing did I think that was happening. I thought, okay, Michael B. Jordan's done. Right. And I'm looking at the IMDb. He's not even right now, he's not credited.
No, they've kept it a secret.
They did a really good job.
Yeah.
Keeping that one hush hush. And that scene was fantastic. So good. But it really put everything in perspective.
It did. And it's the weakest when the callback of it at the end of the movie. And this is the part where I was very worried about. The
section they don't show you at the during it.
Yes.
And then they call it back short.
Yep.
Right. And then it shows the rest of her interactions with him. I was like, oh, okay, there was more.
Yeah. And that was a weak point for me, because it was a callback to something that was like, you're the Black Panther. You ain't gonna do that. Like, we all know this is a Disney film still at the end of the day. You ain't gonna do all the things that you said you were gonna do when you was talking to Killmonger. So why you put that on screen? And I know what they're trying to kind of do is they're trying to turn it. And then you got the like Angela Bassett swing again at the end doing the Mufasa, like, you know, like it really
show
was a little bit. Show them who you really are, kind of thing. It was like a Mufasa moment. I was like, all right, cool. Like, those two parts were a little weak for me. When she was straight out for blood as Black Panther, and I know that a lot of that was CGI and a lot of that was just sort of the martial arts and the things that they do with that particular thing.
Yeah.
Bought it. Like, her as a Black Panther, as a superhero portion of it, bought it.
Yeah.
Her doing all of the things and grieving, which you could tell, like, everybody in this place was not just grieving because they were told to, they were grieving because Chadwick wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that was so poignant and so well done on there. And she carried that whole piece.
I would like to make the point that in Phase 4, now multiple times, we've had a side character is the MVP. And my MVP for Black Panther Wakanda Forever is M'Baku.
Well, I mean, it was arguably that M'Baku almost stole the show, like, in the first movie. Like, he was my favorite character in the first movie.
The way that he's supportive of Shuri, like during the second funeral scene after Angela, like that whole sequence where he's like, "Where's your heart leading? What are you doing?"
Yep.
And then when she comes in, right after she assumes the powers of the Black Panther, when he's like, "This is not what we should be doing," and she's like, "You're gonna do it anyway," and you could see the conflict on his face, right? And I was like, okay, like. But he still shows up at the end to fight, you know, and I'm like, M'Baku, you were the real MVP. Just like Wong was the real MVP of Doctor Strange, right? There's so many side characters. I'm like,
I don't know if he's a side as much as he's going to be king of Wakanda. Like, that's what they alluded to at the end of it. And I'm here for it, because I think it's not only,
it fits.
Well, it fits, but I think not only did that, but he earned a lot of T'Challa's trust in the first movie.
Yep.
And he was always there for all of
them. Through the whole Thanos saga.
Through the whole, that's true. That is true. Through the whole Thanos saga, he was there. His wisdom, though, the way that Winston Duke can play his wisdom, balanced with his ferocity, is, and he brings a level of humor. Him and Okoye and a little bit of Letitia Wright, but more with Riri Williams. They bring a level of levity to this movie that keeps it from being depressing.
Riri does bring some levity. So, in my opinion, that was the only mistake the movie made.
Was including Riri Williams?
Yep.
I tend to agree.
I didn't need that.
She was very much not needed.
And I understand you're trying to introduce Ironheart before the show comes out in Phase 5, and that's fine.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to the Ironheart show. But here's the thing: she was, and I'm trying to think if I've seen her in anything else. I'm gonna go look her up real quick. I think she was kind of wasted in this.
So the thing that I find is interesting for this is like, so she's gonna be in a lot of the, obviously what they've done in this, and we'll talk about that ending too. Is it's setting up the next level of Avengers, and we've been talking about that a little bit, and we talk about that in Phase 5 and stuff like that, but it still wasn't as weak, I think, as some of the things that they had to do with Shuri, because of just the like contorting they had to do with the script. I'm
just saying, like, the Riri piece was the weakest part for me.
I think that would be okay. The thing that I thought that was really, really well though is like and here's where I'm going to throw some love on Letitia Wright. She and Dominique Thorne, like those scenes with her and I mean they're really well done. Like I think that there's
those two chatting, like the stuff in the lab toward the end of the movie, that was the best part. I'm just saying, like, for me, it was in a great movie the weakest part. It wasn't bad, it just was the weakest part of the film.
And you basically reduced Riri Williams to CGI and a MacGuffin.
Yeah,
kind of.
And that's why I was frustrated with it.
In a movie of MacGuffins, because the heart-shaped stuff and everything.
No, the heart-shaped stuff and the vibranium being elsewhere. And by the way, shout out to Tenoch Huerta. Like his job, he did a good job as Namor. Okay,
dude, I cannot wait to see him in future movies.
Talokan, like the whole thing with changing the origin. I liked how they changed the origin.
Yeah,
I like how they made Talokan its own thing.
Yes.
This is the other thing that I want to give Ryan Coogler credit for, was he did this in Black Panther 1 and he did it here. Both times he's done one of these films, when you watched Black Panther 1 and you heard why Killmonger was doing what he was doing, you were like, he's kind of got a point. Mm-hmm. And then when Tenoch Huerta first approaches Queen Ramonda and Shuri and is like, yo, this is bad for us, right? And especially when they come back and explain later why Namor is so afraid of the surface world. He's like, you put us in a crap position because now they're looking for vibranium and we can't have that. We don't want this. We just want to be left alone. And if they're looking for vibranium, because again, full spoiler territory for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. I hope you've seen it, but if you haven't, you're watching this anyway.
I don't know why you're clicking on this video.
The thing is that at the very beginning of the movie, everybody's trying to get the vibranium, and Wakanda's like, look, we're not going to give it to you because it's too dangerous, right? And there's this whole attack on a Wakanda facility that gets foiled by the Dora Milaje.
God, that was a badass scene.
And then they bring the mercenaries to the UN when the UN's chewing out Queen Ramonda for not sharing. She's like, yeah, you sent these people. Oh, hey, French ambassador lady. Here you go. Here's your
Spec Ops people back. Yeah.
Bye.
I have never seen, so my wife is black, for those folks who don't know. I have never seen her eat popcorn exactly like Michael Jackson in the meme for just like watching it go down. She was like, tell France to fuck off. Yeah, let's go. And then it cuts back to Richard Schiff's character, and she's like, and the US, fuck all y'all.
It was great. And again, both times what he's done is like, you understand why Namor is afraid.
Yes.
Right.
And I think it gets to something. And I'm going to do a comparison because we've been the thing that I will probably say about the casting, just to finish up this particular part, was the casting was fantastic all around. Mm-hmm. Everybody, you believed those characters when they were on that screen. It was fantastic. Oh, yeah. The thing, though, that I think that Tenoch brought, and because Namor is he is an in-betweener kind of character. One minute in the comics at least, and one minute he's a good guy. He's fighting with the Avengers.
He started
fought the
as
Nazis.
a bad guy in Fantastic Four, I think.
Pre that, I think, right?
Hang on.
Something like that. He's older than Aquaman, which is interesting because Aquaman, the DC universe came out. And I bring up the DC universe because I think I have put together one of the reasons why.
Oh, you're right. He is pre-Fantastic Four, 1939.
He's one of the oldest comic book characters in the history. And one of the things that I think is very interesting about Marvel movies as compared to DC movies, and I'll bring it along to Black Adam. Which has also been seen recently. Every DC universe villain is looks like a cartoon character compared to Marvel.
Yes.
And yep. Tenoch has, and this is one of the things I was talking about with my wife on the way back, is she has a t-shirt that says Magneto was right. And when they reintroduce Magneto into the MCU, I have a feeling he's going to have a similar like ferocity and where you have to kind of look at it and be like, I don't agree with the methods, but I completely understand where they're coming from. Gore the God Butcher, same thing. Like when he was 1v1ing gods that were, pieces of shit, I was rooting for him because we've seen Zeus, we've seen what the gods look like in the MCU. They're kind of arrogant, they're kind of assholes. And when he was 1v1ing them, I was like, you know what? Man's got a point. It's when the tactics turn and start, hurting innocent people is the problem, right? And that's where you have to like disassociate with the bad guy. But again, in this film, much like Killmonger, you have to look at it and go, shit. And it's taking just history. Like that's the problem is it's tapping into actual world history. Yeah, putting it back into the audience's face and going, I know it's not right. This is shit that happened. I know it's not right, but you have to understand where he's coming from. And if you're watching this film and you don't understand where he's coming from, go read a book. Because you got some reading to do.
And I'm glad they didn't kill off Namor. I'm glad that we're going to get more of him. I liked the capstone scene for him where he's explaining to the girl why he's like, look, when they come, and they will. Right? I want Wakanda as an ally, not an enemy. Yep. Right? Like, this is the thing. So, yeah, the casting was top-notch, across the board. We did get a little more explanation as to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. Apparently, she's a CIA director now.
So that's interesting that the Thunderbolts...
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
The Thunderbolts will be controlled by the CIA very similarly to like the Suicide Squad in DC.
That's what I'm kind of gathering.
When I read the script, when I read the script going into it, that was the moment I figured Killmonger was coming back because they weren't going to do, unless they killed Angela Bassett's character off soon. Which also, where the hell was she on the ancestral plane and things like that? That's a whole nother thing. That that's one of those script continuity things that you kind of look at and go, wah. And why I said it was a weak point in the movie, but that was the point where my eyebrow kind of went up a little bit. That like not only is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character Val, not only is she the director of the CIA, but she's Everett Ross, Martin Freeman's character's ex-wife.
And Everett Ross being the son of General Thunderbolt Ross.
Exactly.
Who's now been recast to be Harrison Ford.
Yeah. And so I'm very interested. I don't know how all of this is going to work in the future. But that was the eyebrow raising moment for me in getting to this part of it. And not only that, but that is playing such a pivotal piece to the story. They cut back a lot to that whole thing and trying to set up things that are there.
Well, they're trying to set up all the stuff that's there for later. And Martin Freeman, again, had a big connection to Black Panther.
Yes.
From the
comics,
first film.
Well, and in the comics, he was the special envoy to Wakanda. He wasn't a CIA agent.
Yeah.
And so that's been changed up a little bit, but
he, again, I like his, and I actually like his dynamics with Okoye and Shuri.
Yes.
Like his interactions with them. I love the way that he does that. The ending scene when she comes to get him and she's like a colonizer in chains.
Yep.
I've seen everything and I'm like, Okay, that's pretty funny, right? Like,
I'm telling you, that's the levity that you had to have that in this movie. Otherwise,
it
was
would have
going to
been too
be
down.
It would have been too down. It would have been too. This is the second act where it ends on a hopeful tone, but it has a feel of Empire.
All right.
Where everything is a little subdued and a little melancholy, even in a beautiful ending with a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Which, by the way, before we jump into anything future,
in the mid-credit scene, are we going to talk about that too?
Yeah, we definitely talked about the mid-credit scene. But the way that they did the Marvel opening this time with all Chadwick stuff,
that was good.
That was fantastic.
That was fantastic. Let's also talk about. There's so much there.
There's a ton in this movie. That's the thing. Do you want to skip to where we go next?
I see why they didn't do the ending credit scene.
Yes.
That mid-credit scene was the perfect way to end it.
Yeah. And that's
right.
And going into this movie, there was a ton of speculation that the Spec Ops team, not in the first one, but when Namor's team attacked the ship and they were down in the suits and all like that, there's speculation that woman is Lake Bell, right? I think from Doctor Doom's group. And
maybe
I'm so glad that they didn't say a word. I want it. Don't get me wrong. I want Doom in the MCU. I feel like it's going to play a pivotal role in the Kang saga and stuff like that. He might show up
here as the one, as fomenting war between Talokan and Wakanda.
It does kind of make you wonder, though, like, and here's where I get. Let's talk about the ending scene first, and then we'll pick up to where we think it's going next.
So the mid-credit scene, which is really the ending of this film.
Yep.
And there's a reason they didn't do an ending, is that Nakia comes out with this little boy, and she introduces him to Shuri as Toussaint, right? Mm-hmm. And then after she, says, "This is my son Toussaint," and I think Shuri's starting to like get it, but she's kind of like waiting, and then Nakia's like, "This is your auntie Shuri." Right? And Shuri's like, uh-huh. And she's like, "Tell him your real name." And then Shuri asks him his real name in Wakandan. And he says he's T'Challa, son of King T'Challa. Mm-hmm. Right? And then she explains that, this is why.
This is why she went to Haiti.
Right. And T'Challa knew, and T'Challa, this was all planned, and things like that. And this is, again, why I don't think, and we've seen them speed up some kid ages. I will point you to Paul Rudd's kid, who went from 7 to like 14 to now like 19 in 10 years somehow. I think that's probably the plan, is we're going to wait a few years because there is no Black Panther in phase 5 or 6 that we know of. So I would guess sometime in phase 7, we're going to see a young adult T'Challa, son of King T'Challa, right, with his auntie Shuri, and they will make him the new Black Panther. And that's how they'll recast, because then he's still T'Challa, he's still Black Panther, and it's perfect. It's very comic book.
It's interesting too, because the child in this particular film is about 6 or 7 years old, roughly. I think he's 6 years old in the film, which
the character's supposed to be about 6.
Yeah, and we have to remember that, like, Black Panther was snapped, so we have a 5-year gap in everybody's timelines for the most part, which means the kid had to be born before the blip. And then it was 1 year after T'Challa died in the movie that the events of this movie take place. So
it's probably about 7.
Has to be. Got to be 7 going on 8 for it to line up. For enough time for T'Challa to know and to want to get the kid out. And I think that it's brilliant that they did this, because they wanted the kid to grow up and have a normal life. That was the big takeaway at the end of Black Panther 1, was that Wakanda was going to start doing outreach. They were going to start trying to make the world a better place. They weren't necessarily going to give up the vibranium and the weapon of mass destruction that could cause, but they did want to start sharing their technology. They did want to start sharing and opening their borders and things like that. And I was having this discussion with somebody else of why now and why not during the blip. And I think it's an interesting one of like, if T'Challa had died and everybody knew of everything that was in there, that kid would have been Joffrey basically, on the throne. Yep. And that's not a place where it's going to want to go. And I think that, bringing it in now, obviously T'Challa's son is part of the Young Avengers, which is, let's be honest, what they're going for at some point in time. I'm
guessing that's the end of Phase 6.
It could be the
end of Phase 7.
Is it the end of Phase 7, or is it like what eventually gets up and helps Kang or defeats Kang?
Maybe, and that's I mean, it's tough to say. Okay, so Phase 5 starts with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So we get our Kang to start.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, that I want to bring up from the destabilization piece, though, and I'm the point that you made about Quantumania, because you see the same trailer that we've been seeing in there right before this, and you go,
"Yep,
wait." It almost feels like this movie does not belong in any of the phases, and it has to kind of like get slid out, because all that they have done is started to drop these little pieces of destabilize Wakanda, and the U.S. government's going to start doing all these things against Wakanda.
And the multiverse stuff.
And then you remember, it's like, wait, there's going to be like 50 multiverses happening here in a minute. And it's going to get weird in phases 5 and 6. This is the Thanos type stuff that's going to get weird.
Could be. So,
yeah.
Right now, Phase 5 kicks off with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I'm not sure whether they're counting Deadpool 3 as part of Phase 5 or Phase 6. Because it releases literally right between them. So right now, Deadpool 3 is supposed to come out November 8th, 2024. The movie just before that is Blade in September of 2024, theoretically, although I don't think that's going to happen. So probably slide Blade out, slide Deadpool into end Phase 5. Right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, also, the other thing that we get a good drop, and this goes to the Deadpool thing. Namor calls himself a mutant.
Yep. And I definitely did go in the movie theater, because why not?
Right. And now Phase 6 kicks off in 2025 with Fantastic Four. Then there's some Untitled Marvel movie. And then it ends in 2025, 2026 with Avengers Secret Wars after Avengers Kang Dynasty. All that to say, they've got a few years to figure all this stuff out. And we know that the full slate of Phase 6 has not been released. I'm sure they know what's in there, but they're waiting.
I think there's going to be some things in there that there's some places that I just don't want them to go with the next version of Black Panther. And destabilizing Wakanda is definitely one of them, because I'm so tired of that comeuppance that is coming between all of this. I just think it's so convoluted.
I honestly don't think they're going to. I think they threw that in there as a thing to show that Ross was really on their side. Where he's like, why would you do this? Like, like that whole sequence there at CIA where they're like, we kind of want to destabilize Wakanda. And he's like, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of thought that the Thunderbolts would be the ones to do that, because Bucky's there.
I don't know if that's going to be the thing, but Bucky's not there anymore. He left.
No, but he's in the Thunderbolts, and he's still White Wolf.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think and that's just it, I don't think he would do that, because the Wakandans were the ones that fixed him.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think Bucky would ever turn on Wakanda.
Well, and I wonder if that's what sets it up when we get Red Hulk kind of thing, too.
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know a little bit more about this stuff before we get into where it gets weird.
Again, from just an overall Marvel Phase 4 thing, I kind of agree with you. This doesn't feel like it fits in Phase 4, because I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Phase 4 was doing.
True.
Right?
Very true.
Like, there was some good stuff in here, but unlike the other phases where I was like, I understand, right?
Yeah.
Like, you knew where it was going. Now I have no clue. Like, I have no idea what God's name they're trying to accomplish, aside from being like, we're resetting a lot of stuff, right? Miss Marvel. We're
Yeah.
bringing Captain Marvel back into the fold. That was like, we're introducing this character, and at the end, Captain Marvel's back on Earth, and Miss Marvel is somewhere else. Cool.
Yeah.
Thor. I still don't know what the point of that movie was. It was fun, but I don't know what the point is. Doctor Strange. He figures out the multiverse, and then he runs around, and in the post-credit scene, he wanders off with Charlize Theron. Cool. Yeah. Spider-Man, again, it's all multiverse, but Shang-Chi didn't have anything to do with the multiverse. The Eternals didn't have anything to do with the multiverse.
Actually,
most of it had nothing to do with it.
I take that back, though. It's like the Eternals started the foundation of the multiverse. Like, they started explaining what the multiverse was created and things like that. Thor, Love, and Thunder, you saw them go through the multiverse. They went to the center of it.
Loki, we got a lot of multiverse in Loki.
Yeah.
But again,
Loki was multiverse 101 for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to it's a busy year for them next year.
It is a very busy year. Yeah.
Secret Invasion, Guardians 3, Echo, Loki Season 2, and the Marvels all before July.
Yep. Yeah, it's a front-loaded year, and the thing that I can't seem to understand.
You know what's funny?
What's that?
I think there's a movie they've left off the slate. I can't see them not releasing a fall movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the slate for it.
Yeah. What do you think would
I have no idea. I have no idea. That doesn't make sense to me, though. That release schedule does not make sense to me.
Agatha, Coven of Chaos, but Daredevil's going to run for a long time.
That's 2024.
Oh, that is 2024. You're right. Ironheart's on there. Blade is November 2023.
No, they've pushed that. It's now 2024 because they were having the writing issues and they fired the director.
Oh, okay. Well, that has not been updated on the slate yet.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah. Well,
but that would explain why there's nothing there, because they were planning on putting Blade there and they got pushed to 2024.
I mean, it could be where they bring something in from the rest of it. It's possible.
Me. I have no idea.
I don't know where you bring it in, though.
I don't either. So yeah, overall, Black Panther. Again, probably the strongest one in Phase 4. Strongest movie
overall in Phase 4, and I think that just gives you such a point to Ryan Coogler's ability to write and craft like character moments.
And this is why, in spite of Riri's weakness in this film, because Ryan Coogler is the showrunner for Ironheart.
Oh yeah, no, I'm waiting for that.
Now I'm like, okay, it's gonna be okay because it's Ryan Coogler, and he's just that good. Like
he's fantastic with it, and I think, and I don't want to say that Riri was bad in this film because her scenes were good. It's the I just feel it just didn't fit. It just felt
structurally,
like
it didn't work. Yeah,
but that's okay.
But yes, overall, I thought it was phenomenal. Yes, Angela Bassett should get nominated for an Academy Award. No, she won't be because it's a comic book movie.
I think everybody should raise absolute hell.
I should too. But
there you go. Go raise hell. Go right to the Oscars. Tell them that they need to nominate and give the Oscar to Angela Bassett for her portrayal of King Ramunda in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Good way to end Phase 4 for them.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that's the end of our discussion on Black Panther. So, you're catching this on YouTube because we're not doing this as a stream. So, like, subscribe. There's a little thing. Hit the little icon so you get notified. We do Identico After Dark on twitch.tv/Identico every single week.
Yep.
And then we upload those to YouTube. So find out what we're thinking about every week.
Come hang, chat with us live. You can check us out everywhere.
It's a lot of fun.
Until then, be good to yourselves. Stay weird. We'll see you.
Adios.